Horizon Chess Home Studio X, and this is Why Korea is Dying Out by channel Kurzgesagt in a nutshell. Why did they change the title? I'm pretty sure the notification that I got was like why humans are dying out. I guess they changed it. I think Kurzgesagt and Real Life Lore does that a lot. Every time they post a video, I guess they change the title after a few hours. It's like they're not sure of something. I'm pretty sure this channel puts a lot of effort into this, making videos. So you think that they will figure out the title much before. Is this some kind of strategy to, boost, algorithm or something? I don't know. But yeah, there you go. Why Korea is dying out. As in what, population? Because that's what the original title, that's the feeling gave me, I guess. I didn't know that. You mean Korea as in general or North Korea? You take in North Korea into account as well. Because if it's South Korea, that would be like, why would that be the case? I don't know. North Korea makes sense because of, obviously, all the, famine and the issue that it has, I guess. South Korea one, I didn't know that. It could be China type of thing, right? In the start of 21st century, China had that one-child policy type of thing, which, lowered the population. Then they stopped, I guess, few years ago. I don't know, 5-6 years ago or something, because the old people ratio got up, and that's a problem in economy. But yeah, this is going to be very interesting. Let's watch it. Remember, people, if you like my reaction, don't forget to subscribe. So I know which videos to react to more. I love anything scientific. So usually, whenever Kurzgesagt video gets posted, that's the first thing I react to because I love science. Obviously, Vsauce too. Vsauce doesn't upload that frequently. But yeah, this is a two channel I know of when it comes to science. I don't know many other channel like something that I can react to. And not it's like 2-hour documentary or something. But yeah, that's what this one.
Every 2 years, 1 million Japanese disappear. China's population will halve by the end of the century. The median age in Italy has reached 48. All around the world, birth rates are crashing.
Yeah, I mean, what?
Italy has reached 48. All around the world.
Okay. Even Asia? I mean, I guess because of China and all the other countries, Asia would be like, I'm pretty sure there is no, India still, hasn't this kind of, as far as I know, has an issue with decline. Because there is no policy, if I remember correctly, in India that makes you think that you shouldn't have many kids or something. I don't know. I'm pretty sure because of the modern world, people are having less kids now, right? There's a reason behind it. Obviously, China had one kid policy, and that even if you stop it, that's going to have effect going forward, right? And everywhere else, if I were to think, at least not in completely developed countries. If I were to think, it's just like living prices is much higher, right, than before. Even though, in developed countries, you could make 10 times more money than you would make in less developed countries. But even then, in those less developed countries, even the basic necessities like grains and things that you need would be cheaper even compared to what you're making. At least that was the case. Like in India 15 years ago, petrol prices were like 20 rupees or something, right? Yeah. And now it's like 100. It's like 5 times as higher. So, even today, whatever job you do in India will give you less money than the job you would do in US by margin of at least 3 to 4 times. I know in USA also living prices is higher, but certain things are not higher, like electronics and things like that. Like if you really compare it, in India it's actually costlier than US. But basic necessities like grains and things, they were cheaper, but nowadays even those are higher. Petrol is higher, so I guess it's not that easy to just give birth to 4 or 5 kids and raise them. You really have to think about them. And the world is getting modern because of internet compared to 20 years ago. So people are seeing the more modernized you become, the less kids you have. That's the trend. So that could be one of the reasons why this is happening.
Birth rates are crashing. Is humanity dying out? What's going on?
Dying out, stagnating, I guess, a bit. Or equilibrating, I guess, I don't know. Because earlier the population number was much higher. Compared to that, it's going to
For
go low.
hundreds of thousands of years, the human population barely grew at all, haunted by disease, famine and war until the Industrial Revolution.
There is also that.
Exponential
God, I don't want to pause too much, but yeah, there's also that. People used to die by stupendous things like diarrhea and shit. Nowadays, modern medicine makes you live out a lot longer.
Progress led to exponential growth, pushing our numbers to 6 billion in the year 1999 and 8 billion just 24 years later. And our numbers will continue to rise for at least another 60 years, but this growth obscures something. People kind of stopped having babies. For a
yeah.
stable population, every couple needs to have 2 children on average. If the number is higher, it grows. If lower, it shrinks.
Yeah.
If it's well below, it shrinks a lot and quickly. Like in South Korea, one of the hottest exporters of pop culture. Its fertility rate lay at 0.8 children per woman in 2022, the lowest in the world. This means 100 South Koreans of childbearing age today will have 40 kids, who then will have 16 kids, who then will have 6.
Ooh.
If nothing changes, then within 100 years, there will be 94% fewer young people and South Korea will see a population implosion. That is, if things stay the same. We have yet to see if there's a bottom to fertility rates. Although looking at the bigger picture and absolute numbers, this population will not shrink that much. It simply returns to the level it once was. In 1950, there were 20 million South Koreans. In 2023, there are 52 million, and by 2100, there will be 24 million again. But the issue is not that there will be fewer South Koreans.
Yeah, is it... obviously, if you know about any global economy, you would realize that declining population is a real risk, right? Especially with the structure that we live in today of how everything is tied together and how economy works at the global scale. The more older people you have in your country, the more risk is higher. That's the case with China, right? That's issue is rising there. Not completely, but issue is rising there. So if something like that happens, your GDP has a chance to collapsing a lot. But at the same time, it's like if by 2100, that's a long distance away, like 7+ decades away, that's 7.5 whatever. So by that point, who knows how the global economy would work, right? It could be robotics, right? AI, basically. AI is already, somewhat trying to replace a lot of jobs. That's already fucked up, right? Everybody's, filing cases against OpenAI, yeah, whatever, ChatGPT, basically, right? So you don't know how future is going to be. Only issue with population is that declining, your economy, which is going to be a problem, which is a problem for everyone. So if that gets fixed, and I think it will by at least 2060, it will be fixed by certain robots and things. I don't think population is going to be that much of an issue. If anything, world can use less population going forward, especially with countries like India and China, which is like just have the highest population ever, right? 1 billion plus or something.
Koreans, the issue is the composition of the population. In 1950, the median age was 18. In 2023, it's 45. In 2100, it will be 59. A country of seniors. And South Korea is far from alone. China may be seeing the steepest population reversal in history.
Good. That means all the idiot teenagers won't run the world. Basically, woke crap who thinks they know everything. At least some wisdom will be there. I don't know. Maybe. That's the only thing I can see from that. Like, yeah, look at that. That'll be more 50, 60 years old than anything else.
Stoppable at this point. Rapid industrialization, urbanization, and rising incomes meant that the Chinese started to prefer smaller families. That, plus the introduction of the one-child policy, which aimed to slow population growth, means that China has had a low fertility rate for decades. Yeah. With a fertility rate of 1.16 births per woman, within 4 generations, 100 young Chinese will turn into 20. China's fertility rates are now one of the lowest in East Asia, lower than even Japan's. In comparison, Europe's depopulation is much slower despite low fertility, since unlike Asia, most states have had a steady flow of immigrants. The impact is complex, as a good chunk of immigrants come from other low fertility rates.
Yeah, but can you really rely on immigrants? Because the more way of life gets better in like underdeveloped countries and their population decline as well, immigrants are going to come, as low as possible, I guess. I don't know. Right now, places like, Canada and things, right? Certain sectors of industry completely relies on immigrants, which is a problem. Right? You don't know when immigrants are going to stop.
Great areas. The number of immigrant women who do have a lot of children is not yet high enough to make a big dent, and fertility rates of immigrants tend to adjust to the native population within 2 to 3 generations. In Eastern Europe, the decline has sped up even more because many young people have emigrated to stronger economies like Germany, whose median age is one of the highest in the world at 46. Latin America fell below replacement in 2015. In the US, immigration is the only thing keeping the population growing substantially. There are still places where fertility rates have not fallen below replacement yet. In much of the Middle East, North and Sub-Saharan Africa, fertility is still high, which creates the same concerns about overpopulation as when Asia grew very quickly in the 1950s, but that turned out to be unfounded. But recently, the UN has reduced its forecast for Africa's population drastically. For Nigeria, estimates were lowered from 733 million to 546 million by 2100. Similar trends are being noted across the continent. As Africa develops, fertility rates are shrinking much faster than anticipated. It's becoming more likely that East Asia's story will repeat itself. By the end of the
I think this is, in a way, because of capitalism. Whether you like it or not, world's most economies are kind of like copy of the most developed worlds, basically USSR, it's like capitalism, right? And as soon as your country runs on capitalism, at early stages you see prosperity a lot. But overall living, basically everything you want to buy, not just overall living wages and things like that. Like I said, it becomes a problem. Everything is kind of costly. You're also making money, but not. So, it becomes really costly to basically have a lot of kids, right? Even though your country is growing, right? Even though your economy is growing, it's like, that cyberpunk world that people basically fantasize that it's like extreme version of capitalism going forward. So somewhat effect of that you can kind of see here, right? Because even people today, like, I think in 1960s or 1970s, there was this image of, the Fallout family, right? From the game, where there's like one breadwinner in the house who can make money. You can buy a Buick. Everybody has everything, like everything's set. By the 90s or even the start of 21st century, right? Like everybody had to get a job, 2 jobs or things just to support a 1 or 2 child family, right? That's the case with every country. The more and more developed they start to become, right? More and more global economy they start to adopt. This is the problem. So, everybody sees the modern world, feels the modern world, and then, they start to get, have less and less children.
century, most places in Africa may be below replacement too. So declining birth rates and aging populations have become a general trend all over the world. Why is all of this a big deal? Demographics and poverty. For a functioning society, you need enough people in the prime of their lives. Young and middle-aged people do most of the work. In any economic system, working-age people create a society's wealth. In retirement, you stop contributing as much to the economy. But the majority of healthcare costs are generated by seniors. The way the world worked in the past was that a lot of younger people took care of a few older people. Imagine a society where most people are older than 60. The financial burden for the young will be immense, unsustainable even for the richest countries. Even in the best case, this will mean people having to work way longer, exploding healthcare costs and poverty, while states with shrinking incomes struggle to keep up with rising costs. Technology might soften the blow, but can't compensate entirely. We can see this happening already. 11 out of 31 provinces in China are running deficits for their pension funds. They got old before they got rich, and now they can't really catch up anymore. China's working age population is predicted to fall by 20% or 200 million people by 2050, as much as today's entire working age population of the US. Infrastructure collapse is an almost universal constant of population decline, because infrastructure works at scale and doesn't get cheaper to operate if it's used by fewer people. If a population declines, be it because of urbanization or the loss of industry and employment, once people and their income disappear, the resources necessary to sustain infrastructure disappear too. You can see it in many depopulated towns and cities in East China.
But I think it depends on which country, how rich a country it is, and what is the tipping point. Below that population goes, like he says, like all the infrastructure is going to suffer, which is going to be a problem. But I guess it depends which country it is.
Germany that suffered sharp population decline after German reunification. Or look at Japan. You can tour the countryside to see dying towns. Wait, if there are few people, won't life get cheaper and better and there'll be more resources to go around?
Maybe not.
No. Population decline doesn't lead to prosperity.
Again, like I said, it depends, like how much population decline in what place. But if population declines a lot, how is things going to get cheaper? Like, you don't have enough people doing the job for you to have that thing that they were making in the first place. So if anything, his price is going to go up because there's not enough things to go around, right? I mean, look at the COVID during that time, how very few people were working, demand was going higher, and everything got just higher priced, right? So it's something like that. Like it depends. Like now, right now, global population is much higher than needs to be. But if it goes too low, yeah, it's not going to be prosperity. If the same reason why people boost the economy. What is economy? It's the goods they make. So the goods are that higher, so world can basically benefit from it. Economy goes down of everywhere, which means you're making less things. If you're making less things, there's not enough things to go around. It's not going to be cheaper. If it's going to be a problem. Yeah, there are resources, but who's going to use that? Who's going to extract that?
People's ideas and work that create our prosperity, not the mere availability of resources. Another danger for aging societies is that elected governments could decide to mostly represent the interests and fears of their elderly populations, potentially leading to short-term thinking and a preference for conserving wealth over innovation. That's not a society that can handle issues like climate change, which need massive investment and
yeah, that is, I think, happening already in US. Conservatives are getting, let's just say, more appealing to people now. And kind of makes sense when you really think from their perspective. But this will stop the future innovations. But at the same time, if you see US's history, if anything, conservatives and basically Republicans are the one who spends more in scientific discoveries than anyone else, than the Democrats, which is weird. But it kind of makes sense. Democrats is like, if anything, Democrats are the one with a short vision, right? They basically don't see more than 20 years from now, and they try to solve all the things that are in the 20 years. Look at the Biden with all the trillions of money that he spent after COVID just to support people. Basically, that's what you think of Democrat. That's what they would do. But if anything, that is spending money that you already don't have. Conservatives try to conserve their money as much as they can, right? Cutting things here and there and investing in the future innovation that you can actually boost some money. So one thing if I can just summarize U.S. parties, one thing is that Republicans wants to be U.S. to be number one. That's it. Everything else, every human needs can come after. While Democrats is like humans are the first one. If you're not number one, we'll see about it later type of thing. That's the basic summary I can think of.
Fresh ideas, something the world is already having a hard time with. Many people think that having fewer humans on Earth is actually a good thing because our societies are too unsustainable. We're using up too many resources because of climate change. The problem is that even if you want fewer humans, this process is very likely too slow to have a positive impact on the environment. The world population is going to grow for at least 60 more years before it may shrink again. By then, we have to solve climate change. Likewise, any other upsides a lower population might have will most likely not materialize themselves this century. So, just like import people, the easiest solution seems to be immigration, but the fertility of immigrants adjusts to local levels within 3 generations. So you need a constant influx of new migrants, which is not sustainable long-term as birth rates are dropping everywhere.
Yeah.
The only way would be to keep poor countries poor so that the young and motivated migrate to developed countries looking for opportunity and a better life. Kind of an immoral thing to wish for. By the end of the century...
As soon as he said that sentence, I'm like, at least out of 500,000 people who watch this video, at least good even a margin of 30% of them are like, wow, what did you just say?
Africa will have the highest number
of
young people in the
like
world,
that sentence.
and so African migrants might become the world's most sought-after immigrants, with elderly nations fighting hard for every person willing to make the move. Immigration can also create societal or cultural tensions, which is a universal phenomenon in all cultures, especially when cultures with very different sets of values meet, often leading to a backlash that slows immigration down again. It's easy to be frustrated at this, but ignoring this will only divide societies, empower demagogues, and increase xenophobia. Economically, immigration is largely beneficial for societies, even if this seems counterintuitive to many people. Especially countries like the US, an immigrant nation built on the idea of personal freedom and opportunity through hard work, will benefit the most. Countries like this will have a clear advantage this century, especially if they can attract the world's brightest and most ambitious. Conclusion and our opinion. This topic is way too big, affects societies as diverse as literally all of humanity. So please take this...
As soon as this topic is way too big and everything is said, I almost heard him, in his head, basically, Kurzgesagt, like, this topic is way too big. And we got attacked recently, so we're not going to say anything more than that. We'll keep this shelf to, have a more detailed analysis and better video, like some 20-minute video if we can in the future, because we don't want to get attacked again.
Part with a gigantic grain of salt. Obviously, we're looking at this from our Central European perspective. One way to look at falling birth rates is as a side effect of the world being less bad than it was. Especially women are freer, more educated, and wealthier than in the past. But it turns out that if societies are better off, individuals often decide to have fewer kids. Interestingly, there's a gap.
Oh yeah, there's also an element of that, right? Like, there is more working class women as well, right? And when it comes to like marriage and anything around that, right, this system is like not really figured out. Look at the global divorce rate, right? So the more equality rises, the more issues gonna rise. Like, okay, if we're gonna get married, who's gonna stay home and take care of our kids? I'm not doing that. Then I'm like, I'm not doing that. So people are agreeing to not have kids in the first place because of this. That is also one of the big elements.
Between how many kids people want and how many they're having. The mean number of kids women in Europe want is around 2.3, much more than they're actually having. While we gained a lot of freedoms in the last century across continents and economic systems, that came at a cost. The tight-knit communities and family structures that were part of our nature, where kids could be brought up by a village. Today, young parents have to deal with different challenges and societal expectations. Women are kind of ground down between the wish and expectation to have a family and a career, being pressured to do both but not compromise either. Men are sharing parental duties more equally than they used to, but are often still expected to.
Yeah, like businesses are not, even at least capitalist countries' business, which is like most of them, it's not really tuned to that, is it? Especially in America, because you have to have like all the cumulative holidays. You have to take that if you want to take absence because you're pregnant. Because business is not going to do that for you. Like having kids, what do I have to do with that? I only care about the quarterlies, man. Give me the quarterly shit, how much money we made. That's the fucked up thing.
To be the provider. And it's sadly true that usually at least one parent's career is held back. In many developed countries, the gender pay gap is chiefly a pay gap between mothers and everyone else. But it's not just outside pressure. Our culture of individualism probably plays a role too. We have only one life to explore, be free, travel, have fun, accomplish something, and try to be happy. So people commit to partners later in life and often decide against big families or any at all. And that's fair. Nobody owes their country babies. So far, no country has successfully managed to increase birth rates significantly, so as of now, we don't really know what works. But here are a few options to at least make the lives of parents much easier. Free and abundant access to childcare, financial benefits for parents, more and cheaper housing. Parenthood has to stop being a career obstacle, and our culture needs to become more positive towards families. And that's something we can all work on. The next time you sit next to a crying baby, don't be a jerk about it. Kids are hard. In the end, humanity will not die out because we're having...
That whole skit about Bill Burr, right? Like, being a mother is the toughest job in the world. It's not toughest, and yeah, it's not, but it's the lengthiest. Like, it's the hardest in that way. Like, the level of attention you have to basically divert to when you have kids is ridiculous. Look at the celebrities, even of the past. You'd wonder, like, there is a female celebrity here, like, who was really, like, actor, was making good movies. Why they suddenly stop? Oh, wait a minute, they had kid. And then 10 years later, they're not going to come back to industry. And there you go, their career is end. Like, you can see that at the top level where it comes to Hollywood. So imagine all the things in normal life with everybody else, right? Our whole system is based on, like, one work while one stay at home and, take care of the family. Now, if you're going to have, like, who's going to be that? That's the question. Like, you have a man that's working, you have a woman that's working, who's going to stay home and take care of the kids? People can manage that, and somehow certain people do manage that, but it's going to be really hard. It depends on how your situation is. So people are just going to choose to not have kids at that point.
Fewer babies. The age and composition of our societies changes quickly, and we need to deal with that sooner rather than later. But in the end, of all the incredibly hard challenges we've faced before, why would this be the one we can't solve? Getting to the bottom of the population crash starts with analyzing and interpreting mass.
Yeah, well, go to brilliant.org/nutshell and support this channel. I think about that, working thing. Most people don't just want to work, they want to pursue what they want to do in any sense. So what we can do is make jobs better, right? So you don't have to go clock in 9 to 5 or something, like 8-9 hours jobs. Comfortably you can do job that is like 2-3 hours or sometimes longer. It's like quota based. Some days you can assign more hours, sometimes not, because I'm pretty sure there are a lot of businesses that are starting to do that. They don't track your hours, they just track your work. So I think bigger issue becomes like any woman that want to pursue a career also wants to have a kid but can't. That's the problem because of this 8-9 hour thing. But the more easy it becomes for men and women both, they can manage alternatively. Sometimes man manages a house, sometimes woman manages house, but they don't have to worry about their job that much because it's like more manageable. And I think AI and robotics in the future is going to create a job that won't require constant need to be there, right? Or even stay home jobs if needed. So I think that's going to solve it in going future, but who knows? I think it's combination of all of that. But I don't think it's going to stagnate a lot. I think it's going to equilibrate in the future. Equilibrious, I don't know how to say that. But yeah, it's going to happen that in the future, which is going to be good. And like he said, like this is good. It's good right now, but it's not going to happen quickly. And when population declines, by that point, whatever reason you think it's good would have been long past, like it's gone. Issue would have come and go. And by that point, issue would have become like, I need more people to do something. So yeah, I think global warming won't get better because of this, because the time period is much longer. Well, that was why Korea is dying out. Basically, this applies to everyone. I don't know why they changed that topic to Korea. The original was why humans are dying out or something like that. But yeah, this was by the channel Kurzgesagt. If you like my reaction, don't forget to subscribe. And yeah, I'll see you next time.